2 words, tattooed across his cheek, not guilty. In a Wollongong courtroom in 2023, the same man looks at a judge and says something else entirely. Yeah, I'm guilty. 2 words on his face, 2 different words out of his mouth. And that's not even the charge that puts him away the longest. That one starts with a phone call from a soccer field, moves to the back seat of a car, and ends with a loaded pistol pressed into a woman's mouth. His name is Troy Fornaciari, former president of the Finks Illawarra chapter. And before any of that, before the gang, before the gun, before either of those 2 words meant anything, there's a 7-year-old boy on the phone to emergency services, watching his father die, while the person on the other end of the line thinks it's a prank call. If you want more of these pulled together properly, a subscribe helps more than you'd think. Start here. Judge Andrew Haisler called it a tragic family history, and he wasn't reaching for a phrase. Fornaciari was 7 when his father had a heart attack in front of him. He called 000. Emergency services treated the call as a hoax. His father died. More trauma followed through his childhood, the specifics of which weren't fully aired in open court, but the pattern the judge described was clear. A kid whose first real experience of the system meant to protect him was being disbelieved at the worst possible moment. That's where the distrust starts, not with a gang. With a phone call nobody took seriously. He did basic army training at some point after that. It didn't stick the way the Finks did. What the bikie gang offered him, according to what was put before the court, wasn't violence for its own sake. It was positive reinforcement, structure, direction. The specific things a kid who lost his father at 7 and learned early not to trust official channels was never going to find in a government department. He worked his way up. By his 30s, Fornaciari was president of the Finks' South Coast chapter, the club's fledgling foothold in the Illawarra region south of Sydney. April 2022. Strike Force detectives are listening in on a different drug dealer entirely. A woman working the Illawarra meth trade after several of her own suppliers had been arrested. She needed a new upline. She found Fornaciari. He'd buy meth from his own supplier, then sell it on to her. Standard mid-tier dealing. What actually surfaces in the wiretaps isn't the transactions, it's the frustration. Associates calling each other, annoyed they can't reach him. "Have you seen Forno yet?" one asks. "No, I'm Forno yet," comes the reply. "I'm fubbing still." The recording cuts off there in reporting, but the tone is clear enough. The one-time gang president had become, to the people relying on him, unreliable. That unreliability had a cause. During the pandemic, Fornaciari had relapsed back into using the drug he was supplying. May 2022. Fornaciari, thousands of dollars in debt, turns up at the Coonawarra home of Paul McKiernan, a man he'd known 6 years. They talk the way they normally do. Then the conversation turns to money. Fornaciari pushes him face down onto the lounge and strikes the back of his head. McKiernan watches his own blood pool into the cushions. 4 staples close the wound at Wollongong Hospital. Here's the detail that doesn't fit the simple version of this story. Fornaciari came back the next day, not to finish anything, to apologize. "I apologize for hitting you," he told the man he'd just injured. It's a strange kind of aftermath, violent enough to require hospital treatment, followed almost immediately by remorse, specific enough to be remembered and repeated in court. Whatever else this tells you about Troy Fornaciari, it isn't simple. This is the one that changes everything. January 15th, 2022, months before the assault on his friend, though it wouldn't surface publicly for 2 more years. Just after midday, Fornaciari calls a woman he knows from the Lake Heights soccer fields and demands to be picked up. She arrives with a second woman. Fornaciari gets into the back seat. What follows, according to the court's findings, is a sustained campaign of terror inside a moving car. He tells one of the women she's going to die. He tells her that for every lie she tells, he'll shoot her in the leg. He claims, the court heard this as an allegation, not a confirmed fact about any actual killing, that he'd just killed someone. As they drive toward Kiama Downs, he slaps one of the women across the head. They arrive at a house on Cameron Crescent around 1 p.m. Fornaciari fires a pistol into the lounge. directly beside where one of the women is sitting. He squeezes her cheeks and forces the barrel into her mouth. Police wouldn't find physical confirmation of any of it until December 2023, nearly 2 years later, when a bullet turns up lodged in the floorboards of that same Kiama Downs house, entry and exit points matching exactly what the women had described. Here's where the timeline gets genuinely tangled. In August 2023, Fornaciari pleads guilty to the drug supply and wounding charges connected to his friend McKiernan, sentencing set for November that year. Available reporting doesn't confirm what that final sentence actually was. That's a real gap, not a detail left out for pace. Meanwhile, the kidnapping case is still building. March 2024, 12 fresh charges land, formally accusing him of kidnapping and assaulting the 2 women from Lake Heights. He doesn't appear in court for the mention. He's already in custody at Mid-North Coast Correctional Center, serving time on the earlier matter, while this second case works its way toward trial. 2 separate prosecutions, running on 2 separate clocks, against the same man for 2 entirely different nights. February 2026. A jury finds him guilty. Kidnapping. Taking a person with intent to commit a serious indictable offense. 2 counts of using an unauthorized pistol. In June 2026, Judge Imad Abdul Karim hands down an 8-year head sentence, with a non-parole period of 4 years and 10 months, backdated. Fornaciari, now 43, appearing by video link from prison, sips from a water bottle as the judge works through it. He's eligible for release on April 16, 2029. One of the women, the court heard, was left with trauma severe enough to permanently reshape how she sees the world. There's a follow-up detail sitting in the reporting that nobody's fully explained. At some point, Troy Fornaciari said he wanted his facial tattoos removed. Not guilty. Tough luck. The words that made him instantly recognizable across the Illawarra, the ones a police officer, a journalist, a court reporter could spot from across a room. He wanted them gone. We don't know exactly when he said it, or what specifically prompted it, or whether it happened before or after a jury spent February 2026 deciding whether "not guilty" was ever the right thing to have written on his face at all. What we do know is this. A boy who watched his father die while an operator assumed he was lying grew into a man whose entire identity, the gang presidency, the ink, even the 2 words on his cheek, was built around a specific, permanent insistence that the world had gotten him wrong. And somewhere between a Coonawarra lounge room, a Kiama Downs house, and 2 separate New South Wales courtrooms, that insistence stopped holding. Here's the question worth sitting with. When someone spends their life building an identity around never trusting the system, and the system eventually proves, twice over, that the distrust wasn't misplaced about who he'd become, does that vindicate the 7-year-old who wasn't believed, or does it bury him completely under everything that grew on top of him? What do you reckon?